All right, it looks like we are live. I want to welcome everyone to our sort of candidate forum to help have the public be a little bit more in the know about who wants to be on the Board of Supervisors for the Conservation District. We welcome everyone to our meetings. They are open to the public, so if you go to our website, you'll see when those meetings are. We also have a podcast called the Kentucky Conservation Conversation, and every time I say it right, I congratulate myself just a little bit. So there's lots of ways to jump in and be involved. If this is the first time that you're joining us for one of our events, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and let the candidates introduce themselves. We don't have a ton of time to get to all of the questions. So if we can start with Eli, if you want to just briefly tell us who you are and what you're about, and we'll just go from there.
All right. My name is Eli Levine. I'm a biologist, ecologist. Much of my research and professional life has been involved in the removal of invasive plants and the restoration of natural areas. What other specifics were we looking for?
What prompted you to want to serve on the Board of Supervisors?
Well, my family has some land here in the county. I've always been interested in keeping the natural areas secure, as well as the good use of our natural resources. My family is actually knows David Kalin, who mentioned that there were folks looking for the empty seats that previously hadn't been on the ballot. So I've been looking for an opportunity to get back into conservation work. This seemed like a good opportunity to put my skills to use for everyone.
Wonderful, thank you. Let's move to Latoya.
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Latoya Bryant, and I am a native Louisvillian, and I have been in education for the past, this is year 14, and one of the ways that I found I connected the most with my students is through my passion of being able to grow things. And with that, I'm an avid gardener. I've been gardening for 7+ years at my house, and I actually have coined my garden the healing garden, because that's another story. Through my journey of cancer survival, I was able to use my garden to be able to heal myself from the inside out. And so just, luckily by happenstance, on my birthday, I ran into Jennifer. I was donating seeds at the seed swap. So, she informed me about the Soil and Water Conservation District and what all you all did and that I should consider it. And I researched you all, and I was like, yes, this definitely fits in with my morals and values on how I feel like we need to preserve the earth. So here we are. Nice to meet everyone.
Wonderful. How about Ben Plume?
Yes, so good evening, Louisvillians, fellow neighbors. My name is Ben Plume. I am also one of the candidates running as a write-in for the board. I am not a native Louisvillian. I'm a transplant from Central Europe. Moved here almost 2 decades ago, and about 3 years ago became a newly minted citizen and researched what it is I need to do in order to participate in democracy. One of the things that people should be doing is going out to vote or sending in their ballots. They've received them by November 3rd, right? And I was trying to figure out how else I can participate and give back to the community where I've lived for almost 20 years. I found the sample ballots, how the Board of Supervisors only had 2 names attached to them, and when I inquired, there weren't many other write-in candidates. So I decided that would be a perfect opportunity to try to give back and save the environment. I've been somewhat active for the last 1.5 years, although through the pandemic a little bit less, with local groups trying to promote sustainability here in Louisville. None of them related to the soil and water conservation district yet, but I do hope that I can contribute to that with some of my expertise. I am by trade a software engineer. I've been working in the public health realm for the last 18 years, primarily for federal agencies. Some of them, just to name a couple, the EPA and most recently the CDC. And in my spare time, if I have any, I do like to look out into my small backyard and see if I can grow anything.
All right.
And I do, yeah, sorry, thank you.
That's okay. No, I could go on about conservation as well. I get it.
Yes.
Donald Thomas, would you like to go next?
Yes, hello everyone. How you doing? Nice to meet you all. I'm Donald Thomas. I'm a real estate agent in the Notary Republic. So I deal with the public a lot, and I stay busy out in the community. And a good friend of mine told me that I should go for this. And I did my research, and it seems very interesting. It seems like something I would like to do and try to help my community in other ways. So that's pretty much where I'm at. And I guess you'll learn more about me as we go on today.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, Sarah Sammons, is that how you say your last name?
Yep, Sarah Sammons.
Thank you.
I'm Sarah Sammons. I'm a landscape architect, 20 years experience in landscape architecture. I'm also lead accredited professional, and lead is leadership in energy and environmental design. I've always had a passion for preserving our native plant areas, our riparian areas, large stands of woodlands, things that we are running out of because of overdevelopment and undervaluing. Love living in Louisville. I've moved here 7 years, and I just really wanted to get involved in something, and I joined or was appointed to the Metro Tree Board committee, and I served with David Kalin, and he said, you should think about running for the Soils and Water Conservation District. And looked into it, and it's right up my alley, and it's a good way to put my skills to use for the community.
Right, thank you. Let's say, John Dimery, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. My name is John Dimery. I've lived in Louisville for my whole adult life, but what got me interested in this is I like being efficient, like and that path has led me into just water reclamation. Like I like rain barrels. I like catching the water from the downspouts. That's kind of one of the things I really, really like. And also I see that you guys are involved in like pollination and butterfly gardens. And that's something that I really like. Like U of L's gardens, down U of L's campus, they have a pollination garden. I go down there every once in a while, and it just inspired me to want to try to get a part of that and making that another thing.
Okay, Jasmine Weatherby. Oh, we can't hear you.
Sorry, always helps to unmute. I'm Jasmine Weatherby. It's really nice to meet you all. I already know Jennifer and Lilius. We've met before too, but it's very nice to meet the rest of you. I have been in public service pretty much my whole adult life. I worked for Congressman Yarmouth for 8 years, and I've been with the Metro Council for 4 years, or it will be 4 years at the end of the year. The council person that I work for is not running for re-election, and so I'm getting ready to start a new chapter of my life, but it's hard for me to give up the idea of public service altogether, and so I thought this was a great time for me to focus in on things that really matter to me, conservation being one of them. And that's why I am running as a write-in.
Thank you. John Hodgson.
Hi, everybody. I am a semi-retired engineer currently working on a PhD in public policy. And I have been, can y'all hear me okay? I've been involved in conservation and agriculture for about 45 years. I've been here in Louisville for 35 years. a garden. I've got a small farm. I've raised cattle. I've raised sheep. I've got solar energy, on-site composting and wastewater disposal and geothermal heat. And I'm just kind of a nerd about all things, preserving and conserving resources. I've done some woodland management. I've got some acres outside of the county, but I think the thing that I bring to the table that would be helpful is I'm a member of the State Board of Agricultural Conservation Easements, and I'm also a member of the State Environmental Education Board. I was been involved here in the Fisherville area. I live in the woods in the far east part of Jefferson County in the Floyd's Fork area, and I've been a founding member of the Parklands of Floyd's Fork, as well as the Fisherville Area Neighborhood Association. We are, if you go far outside the Gene Snyder, we're the wild segment of Jefferson County, where there's still, lots of wildlife and trees and streams, and we're trying to keep from killing the only living stream in Jefferson County. So that's something I've been passionately involved in for about the last 10 years. And I also heard about this via David Kalin, who I've worked with on those Floyd's Fork efforts. David's quite a popular guy here tonight. So that's about it for me.
All right, Jennifer Chappell, and then we'll get started on our questions.
Sure. I guess what I had to say might help kind of lead into those questions. First and foremost, thank you to all the candidates in attendance and everyone joining us on Facebook. As people were reaching out to me, I saw a need for this forum, and I'm so glad that we're able to have this conversation, and I've really enjoyed hearing why everyone would like to run, and especially to hear so many people that are passionate about our environment. So I currently serve as the vice chair for the Conservation District. I'm the only incumbent for this position in this election, and I'm respectfully asking for votes to carry out another term representing Jefferson County. As Kentucky's only predominantly urban conservation district, Jefferson County's challenges, partnerships, funding streams, and programs are vastly different than those of rural districts. Because of this, the Conservation District has found itself struggling with its identity over the last few decades. However, in the last 4 years, the Conservation District has put tremendous effort into laying a solid foundation for the district and putting together a plan for its continued growth. I'm very proud to have served alongside my fellow supervisors and the district employees in building the Conservation District to what it is today. I look forward to lending my service to the betterment of our soil, water, woodland, and wildlife. Thank you.
All right, we're going to jump into our questions. I'm just going to let you guys answer as the spirit strikes you, and when everyone has gone, we'll just move on to the next question. The first question we have is, what is the most important objective of the district, and what skills do you have to support that objective, in your opinion?
I'll go if no one else wants to go first. Well, the whole reason why the Soil and Water Conservation Districts were set up was to address a man-made environmental crisis of the time, which was farming too fast and too much. That was in the 1930s. Today, we're facing environmental crises, man-made, with overdevelopment. We're seeing stormwater flooding. Our infrastructure, no matter how big we build it, is always going to be too small because of the amount of impermeable, pavement that we have. We have a tree canopy loss that's creating thunderstorms over downtown from the heat island effect. We're seeing environmental crises getting worse with climate change as well. And I feel like the reason that the Soil and Water Conservation District was created in the 1930s is just as relevant as it is today. And we need, like Jennifer was saying, we are the most urban conservation district, and we need to look at this with a new approach and kind of get everyone, and not just the farmers. And while we have a lot of great farmers in this county, we also have a lot of urban uses for this conservation district funds, programs, education. I just feel like it might need to be a little bit broadened.
Ben, you were unmuted. Are you ready to go next?
Well, yes, but it's hard to follow. So, first of all, I love living in the city because it is so green. I've seen quite a few cities around the world, and Louisville is certainly one great place to live because it is so green. But I do also understand that we have a lack of trees. Maybe not in my area, but in other areas of Louisville. And one thing I've seen over the last few months is one way to fight climate change globally is to, maybe plant enough trees that would cover the surface of Siberia, I believe, or the US and Canada combined. So doing this in Louisville, we may not have enough space to grow all these trees, but I certainly think that that is one project that needs to be sustained and grown over the next few years, and reclaiming nature in areas where businesses are no longer there or no longer used. Parking lots are dormant, and the last time I went further south of St. Matthews, I noticed how many areas are just bare, and I would love to see a little bit more nature in our city. And I think many people in the city need to understand that nature is what we need to live. Without nature, there's nothing.
Okay.
Thank you.
John Hudson.
Yes, I probably have a slightly different angle than some of y'all because, like I say, I do live on the far eastern fringe of Jefferson County in the Floyd's Fork watershed. And I think the challenge facing us is that we've got an absolutely fabulous $200 million park out here in the parklands of Floyd's Fork. And Floyd's Fork is the last living stream in Jefferson County that hasn't been killed from runoff. It's abundant in wildlife, and I think preserving that, coming up with conservation programs that clean up runoff water before it gets in the creek, reducing the TMDL on the stream, or at least keeping it from increasing from development is very important. I think we've got the potential for runaway development out here, as we don't have any zoning regulations with any real teeth in them to stop large-scale development in this East End. And I think it affects the environmental value of the entirety of Jefferson County, because we do have this great forested creek park corridor out here that is an attraction for the entire county and kind of an environmental model for the entire county. And so I'd say that's probably my main interest is helping preserve and conserve the environmental characteristics of that county. But I also, I'm very interested in things like Ben was talking about, increasing the tree cover and some urban gardening programs helping to produce fresh food in food desert areas of downtown, because I eat about half of my diet is stuff I grow here on the farm, and I think that has tremendous health benefits, and it'd be great if everybody could have at least some of that, at least a tomato off the back porch, if nothing else.
John, will you demystify the acronym TMDL for our listeners who maybe don't know what that is?
Sorry, total
That's okay.
measurable daily load. That's how many solids are dissolved in the creek. Basically, it's dirt and human waste that get into the creek.
Okay, thanks. Who would like to go next? Jasmine. Oh, Jasmine, and then Donald.
Go ahead. Okay.
So it's really hard for me to pick one thing that I think is the most important, because everything is so interconnected. But I will say that the thing that I am most personally interested in is urban gardens, expanding those. I think that's especially important right now. I kind of have a humanistic approach to this, where, I think we have such a huge, we have a pandemic, but we also have a pandemic of, people that are unhoused, people that are food insecure. And I want to find a way to have urban gardens better feed people that are food insecure and unhoused, and do it in a more kind of free-flowing way. So it's not the type of thing where you have to say, meet at this spot at this time on a Friday and there will be food for you, but rather an approach where there are gardens that are at street level, where somebody that's walking by could grab themselves a tomato or a squash or some beans and, keep walking. And so finding a way to, I think that I also want to see people planting their own gardens at the rate of speed that they were buying toilet paper back in March. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that we all, there's so much uncertainty right now that the more that we can do to homestead for ourselves and teach those kinds of skills to everybody in the community so they feel empowered to grow their own food and nourish themselves, the better.
Thank you. Donald?
Yes, the experience I had would be, I guess, growing up. I have a lot of family in Monroe County, Kentucky, and they were farmers and gardeners, and I grew up with them doing things like that. I don't have that here in Louisville, and I would like to see my kids and grandkids at least see it and see that they can kind of like John said, go in the backyard and grow or pick some tomatoes, and eat your own things that you grew. So there's things like that I'm interested in. Hopefully we can get that down here and make some kind of change.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
We have Latoya. Have you gone on this question? All right.
All right. For me, the objective that is most important is the preservation of the watershed, our tree canopy, and also, urban gardening, as somebody said earlier, because for me, my direct correlation is with me being an educator in JCPS, all the deficiencies that are going on in our city is directly connected to our students. And for me, the platform would be how I could help that and shift that is that as I go around and visit schools within our district, they have gardening programs, but they're unattended, or they were great 5 years ago, but, whatever teacher left that took care of it and nobody else picked it back up. So for us and for me to be able to bridge, the work that we're doing with soil and water conservation and empower our future and our youth about what they need to be doing in order to save the earth, then that's the greatest platform we can do. If you empower the future on how to love the earth and treat it good, then the earth will treat you good back. So we're making steps in the right direction, as other organizations within the city have done collaborations with, this entity. But, if we can get the youth on board, they're already fired up, with what's going on, with the nation. So why not give them another cause to fight for? And it'll make everything,
Yeah. John Demery?
Like I said, and a couple, I guess, other people said, urban gardening is a big thing that I've been, I just love it. There's nothing better than just going in your backyard and getting your own food and sharing it with friends if you have, if you can. That's one of the things that I hope to bring to this, and one of the programs that I think I like the most about it. And I just, from just my day-to-days working with, just a blue-collar job, I've been able to convert a lot of my, well, not a lot, but some of my coworkers into thinking more about why doing some of this stuff can be beneficial, even if setting up composting or, setting up rain barrels and stuff might cost a little bit to get going. It's but you get free water and it helps, stop the sewage systems from flooding and dumping into creeks. So and if I can just continue to do that, but with the, knowing more about this stuff, yeah.
Okay. We have Eli and Jen left, so whoever between the rock, paper, scissors, figure it out. I don't know. Levi or Eli, go ahead. Oh, there we go.
So I think, and hearing everyone speaking so passionately about all the different things, I don't know that there's one most important objective. I'd kind of singled out the education and outreach aspect of it. These are all projects that need to be worked on, and they all need attention, and they all need to be brought to all corners of the county. The Conservation District Board is a resource, and people need to know that the resource is there and available to them. We need to share our passions for these resources and these areas. We need to be nerds for every one of these projects. I think that, you know, Latoya's teaching that those kids absolutely need to hear about all of these projects. We need to bring the farms to tables. We need to bring every bit of it up close and personal for every person that is interested in it. I've worked with volunteers. I've worked at tables in festivals. I've worked closely with kids in my jobs. And the most important thing in getting people's attention is getting them hands-on. You know, whether it's showing them a rain garden at work as a rain barrel fills up, or volunteer days in the park planting and you know, removing plants, restoring the woodlands, or just helping your neighbor plant a tree. There really is no substitute for getting your hands dirty, or meeting a critter up close and personal.
I agree. Thank you. Jen.
Sure. I think it's important to note about the conservation district is that we can influence laws, but we don't write laws. And so in that, we have to understand what is our value in the whole scheme of things. And that's where I think that programming is a very large key to what we do. And to plug the Conservation District podcast, in a recent episode, former NRCS, what would you call Kurt?
Mastermind?
Yeah. A guy that was formerly with the Conservation District, Kurt, he said, one of the things as we move forward that is so important with the Conservation District is providing education. And that environmental education is going to help connect people and develop their appreciation, because I think there's so much of a disconnect that people don't understand why what we're doing now has an impact on tomorrow. I recently saw a quote and I thought that it was so beautiful. It said, "To grow a garden is to believe in tomorrow." And I thought that was just so beautiful. And I think that definitely something that a phrase that the Conservation District could adopt. And so when we talk about education and programming, I think one thing that we've done really well over the past 4 years is establishing the Urban Agriculture Coalition. And so something that we've done is recognized there's a lot of different players in the sustainable future of Louisville, in taking green initiatives in Jefferson County. And so we don't want to be redundant or take away funding from another person. So how can we create a coalition or a partnership with all of these organizations that will let us propel each of our platforms further without kind of competing with each other? And so I think doing that, we've been able to provide a good place, a good resource for residents of Jefferson County to come and say, hey, I have this problem. Where can I find a solution?
Sure. Kind of building off of that question, a little bit on the other side, which of our, that was everybody, right? Yeah, okay. Which of our programs at the district needs the most improvement, and what are your plans, or what skills do you bring to help implement those improvements? Anyone can go.
Can I go?
Yes.
For me, I would say that the programming is spot on, because I have attended numerous programs. But for me, it's the communication on how other citizens of the community actually find out about it. Because a lot of times people will come over to my house and be like, oh, where did you get this, rain barrel from? Or where did you get this plant from? And I'm like, it was on Facebook, it's with Soil and Water Conservation District. Go to the Jefferson County, whatever. And they're like, I never heard of it. And I'm like, it's right at our fingertips, so the programs are amazing. It's how do we get that word out, so us being able to use our platforms to spread that word more, I feel like that's where the improvement can be.
Okay. Jasmine.
I wish I had something original to say, but I'm going to say exactly what LaToya just said. Well, work. It's just how do we amplify that so that more people can access it? There's really great educational tools, technical support for people. But I don't think that nearly enough people that are interested in what you all are doing know about what you do. So if I am elected, I really want to help amplify the work that you all already do. So that more people take advantage of it.
I'm taking notes on this section, just so you know. Anyone else?
Yeah, may I second the outreach program. I was not aware that the Soil and Water Conservation District even existed here in Jefferson County up until fairly recently. May have been because I never voted before, but the outreach and reaching neighborhoods to make them aware that this exists and that programs exist. I'm getting a lot of election mail recently, but none of it has been from the board. No complaints. I know resources are tight, but I think if the city can reach out to its citizens on behalf of the board, that would be great. The other thing is education. I've seen over the last few months how important it is to teach our little kids. My son is 5-year-old. What it means to grow a tomato plant from a seed, to grow an apple plant or small tree. No, it's not really a tree yet, from a seed. And he even went as far as trying to grow a sandwich tree from one of the seeds. That didn't work out, but teaching little minds the importance of being connected to nature, growing new things and seeing them grow, I think that is where our combined future will lie.
Okay.
Thank you.
Donald Thomas.
I guess I have to double down on everything that everyone else said. I think community outreach would probably be the very best thing that we could do. Because even when I told my friends and family what I'm doing, they say, what? What's the Soil and Water Conservation District? So nobody really knows about it. Nobody that I know anyway. So I think that'll be a very big thing to do, is get the word out. Then once the word is out, then we can build up on that.
All right. Sarah?
I'm going to follow up with everyone else on the outreach, just getting people to know about the programs. But one of the programs that I thought could use improvement, I don't know how the existing program really is, but having been in the development community for a while here in Louisville and seeing the effects that it has on our just native land, I guess, untouched land or land that has become fallow, or maybe that was agricultural land at some time. If it's developed into a subdivision, having seen the after effects of it, I feel like the construction part and the contractor part programs should be a little stronger. There used to be a time when the Jefferson County Soil and Water Conservation District had a review of the development plans that came through Metro Planning and Design Services. It would be kind of nice to have that ability to say, are you developing in the lowest impact development way? Also, that can go for redevelopment of West Louisville. I live in West Louisville. There's a lot of opportunity, a lot of abandoned houses. It would be great to have that also be low impact development. Also use the soils that are in West Louisville that are great for drainage and great for rain gardens and bioswales. Just education, getting things out there and improving the contractor programs.
Okay.
I will go. I'll jump in if
Okay.
I do want to kind of jump in, and I admit that there is a little bit of there is room for improvement in our outreach. Although I do want to say, over the last 4 years that I've been a part of the district, we have built a new website. We started a newsletter, a digital newsletter We started a podcast, and these things are just in their infancy, but they're allowing us to connect with people like we never have before, because the digital world is a totally new playground for the conservation district. And so I really look forward to leveraging those things, but also in getting our name out. It's not just we're putting the information out there, but how do you lead a horse to drink? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So we're putting the information out there, but how do we get people to know about us? And that's when I think that providing a lot of technical assistance is really important. And that way people can say, oh, I have this problem, and somebody else can go, oh, well, the conservation district really helped me with that. And so then it kind of lends itself to expanding us without doing anything. It's just kind of like an organic snowball, right? And so I think another thing that's going to really help us is we're looking forward to creating a physical space that is all ours. We have a district office, but it is in a office building. We don't have any of our own green space. So one thing that I'd really like to see is giving Lilius and Aaron a space that they can go and really put a lot of the things that we preach into practice. And so once we have a physical space, we're really going to be able to leverage our programming and help people know that we exist physically and digitally and every other way that there is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's your time. We'll say John Hodgson, John Dimery, and then Eli.
Okay, I would agree with everything that I've heard so far about what we need to do. It's a rather large cat wandering across Jasmine's screen there.
I am so distracted, and I love it so much. We support this, Jasmine. It's fine.
I think I don't know enough about what the programs are to comment on what could be improved. I'd say in general, we need more citizens getting their hands in the dirt. When I garden, I have people say, why in the world would you do that? You can buy a tomato at Kroger. And clearly they're not understanding the relationship between, humans and the planet and food, and get a lot more benefits out of gardening than just avoiding paying 79 cents for a tomato at Kroger. So more people with their hands in the dirt is what I'd like to see.
Okay.
All right, so I guess one of the problems with going this late in it is that I'm going to basically repeat what everybody else has been saying. Awareness is a thing that I would like to, I would put as a priority. A lot of the programs I wasn't quite aware of until I started looking into things, and just it'd be nice to know where to find some of these things. If I, like for other people who might not be willing to put the time to looking into these things, instead of just like, it took me more than 5 minutes to figure out. But yeah, that's just awareness,
Okay.
as everybody else said.
Thank you.
I am actually an example of what Jennifer was talking about. Kurt Mason helped my family get an EQIP grant for invasive plant removal and woodland restoration on our land. So when it was suggested that that I run for the Soil and Water Conservation District, I already knew a lot of what the board does. I looked into it a little bit more. My master's research is in invasive species removal. So I would love to get involved and help provide some of the technical advice for that with that program, and help people access the resources that the district has available.
All right, coming off of that's everyone? Yes. So one thing that we want to maybe give you an opportunity to go a little bit more in depth with is what relevant experience, and Eli, you just touched on this a bit, what relevant experience do you feel like makes you a good candidate for this and let's think in terms of improvements and in terms of what you want to amplify or change. Kind of remind us again what you're bringing to the table in order to help us really start moving more aggressively towards our goals in Jefferson County.
Well, I'd like to say that I would bring that community awareness. It's Don Thomas, but I'd like to bring the community awareness. And I'd like to bring some leadership here. Not saying it's not any, but I want to bring some leadership that I have. I'd like to open up the community to what they don't know about what's going on here. you know, and that's where I'm really strong at, community awareness and the community itself.
All right.
Can I go?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Go for
yeah, kind of like what Donald was saying. I bring like a perspective, I guess. You know, I think most of the people that I know wouldn't just by nature be aware or even care about this stuff. So what I bring is, okay, here's what would get them to care. You know, maybe some people who might not know about it. Here's what would bring them into it. Maybe make them care, aware, you know, and just have, you know, let them know where they can get stuff, you know, information or just, you know, different programs that are offered that may not otherwise be accessed.
Okay. Jasmine, would you like to go?
I am happy to. And for being understanding of my cat wanting to participate.
I am low-key such a fan of people's pets wandering into Zoom calls. It really breaks it up nicely.
Well, so I think that what I have to offer, I've been in public service for 12 years. So, you know, in so much as someone that is good at communicating with elected officials is involved or important, I think that I would be a big asset in that. One of the things that I do most regularly is to act as a liaison between citizens in our district and then different government agencies, which is, you know, I think nice when people are having trouble figuring out what kind of resources they need to be connected to, but also communicating in a way that the constituents can understand and the more technical folks in whatever government agency can understand. So acting as a liaison, I think that's another one of my strengths. But I also think I bring a lot of just heart and care. You know, I don't think people stay in public service for the glory of it. It's really because you want to help people. And, you know, the parts of my job that I have enjoyed most in my current position are definitely the tree plantings that we've organized. Over the past 4 years, I have helped plant 800 trees, and organizing those and getting to see those trees grow has been a huge joy for me. So getting to do more things like that is what I'm passionate about and what I think I'll be good at.
Thank you. Who would like to go next? John Hodgson?
Yeah, I'll echo a little bit of what Jasmine said. I spent the last 4 years in state government and have, by virtue of my connections with legislators and the agriculture commissioner and the state boards I serve on for conservation and environmental education, I think I could be helpful to the Jefferson County Soil and Water District, helping bring some of those state resources to the table and pursue grants and that sort of thing.
All right. Latoya?
Yes, for me, what I bring to the table, in the words of my mother, I have a motley crew of friends, but all of us have the same passion of wanting to be more involved in the community with preserving the earth and everything, you know, that Soil and Water Conservation District stands for. And for me, I can be that leverage piece to be able, because they're hungry and they want the knowledge, they just don't know where is the organized place to be able to get it. And so just how Jennifer and I ran into each other, somebody gave me some seeds and I said, hey, just put them in my hands and I'll feed the community, you know. So it's the same way, you know, with me being able to be in this, you know, position, is that all you got to do is just give me the information and I'll disseminate it for you. So, you know, that will be what I can bring, you know, to the board.
All right. Let's say Sarah.
I think my experience with landscape architecture, as well as the development community, as well as the tree board, I feel like my passion going in, if I'm elected, would be to preserve existing woodlands, to improve our tree canopy, and also to work on getting low impact development more of a widespread way of developing our lands. I feel like that is the biggest impact that we are currently seeing on our natural resources is mass grading of these huge subdivisions of, we talk about the east versus the west as far as how we develop our county, and the development that we see out east is just mass grading, getting rid of all the trees that are in the way and not grading around the trees and protecting things of that nature. Where we can go over to the west end, and there's all kinds of programs for that through the trees, because we don't have as well of an established tree canopy in the West Louisville. Like where I live on 34th Street, we have tons of trees, but they're all in decline, or they're not very good trees at all. Whereas the East End, there's all these subdivisions with brand new trees. We just need to balance it out a little bit. And with my knowledge of trees and landscape architecture, as well as the development community and the process, I feel like I would bring those skills to the table and hopefully move our cause forward a little bit.
Okay. Let's say Eli, Jen, and then Ben. And I think that's everybody for this question.
As I mentioned, my master's is in biology. I got that working in an urban ecology lab at U of L. My research was done here in the county. I am used to thinking of the city as its own unique ecosystem. And that explicitly includes humans as agents of change and drivers of change within our ecosystem, but also the natural areas. It all has to be taken together and considered as a system. I've worked both academically and professionally in nonprofit organizations here in town, Louisville Homestead Parks Conservancy. I currently work at the Cabbage Patch Settlement House. We have to not just bring the technical aspects, which I think I can help with, but also, as all of us have said, this entire meeting, we have to provide the communication for it, translate the technical into action, and help people see where they can act. That's where I can help.
All right.
I'll try to keep mine fairly short, but I think that there's quite a learning curve in coming on the board. There's so many acronyms, and still to this day that I'm just kind of like, I don't know what that is. And so learning what every component is and how it all works together, it's all one big machine, whether you're looking at it at a county level, a state level, or a national level. And so seeing how all of these groups work together and how all of the issues connect, I think is really important, and being able to see this, the big picture as well as the small scale, is really important. And I think that not only is it the stuff that's happening with the public, but also keeping the office running. And I think that keeping the office, making sure that our personnel is getting paid, and making sure that we are doing what we need to do to keep our office running, I think is really important. And so I think that I have hopefully helped over the last 4 years kind of help keep things together administratively within the office as well.
Thank you. Ben?
And last person to go. I hope somebody was taking notes on all the different things we can do. I think the experience I can contribute is both from my career as an IT person, possibly enhancing the digital outreach, reaching new groups. In addition to that, a few months ago, before the pandemic, when I started looking into connecting with groups here in Louisville, I found one group, then I found 5 others through members of one group. I think connecting people across those multiple groups, all in favor of sustaining the environment, is something I could possibly assist with. And I do hope to contribute by reaching more people, and especially the younger generation that is not necessarily outside, but right now is getting their education through tablets. Maybe digital outreach to get to the younger generation is one aspect of enhancing visibility.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the next question. For those who don't know, we get funding from different sources, but we one of our sources is Metro Louisville, and because people don't know about all of the things that you guys have talked about, because folks don't know we exist, this sort of thing, sometimes we are not prioritized in funding as often. And so what we want to know from you is what fundraising experience you bring, so that we can take all of these great ideas that we've had and move them forward.
I can
Silence.
go.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, all right. Do you want to go back?
I can start. Quite honestly, I do not have any experience fundraising, so that would be something I need to learn, especially in the government sector. So I will let the next person speak about their experience. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I will go, since I was already trying to hop in there. A lot of my fundraising experience has been with the U of L Political Science Alumni Council. I'm part of that council, and what we do is we give scholarships to students who would like to do an internship in DC, but as you know, a lot of scholarships are not paid, and DC is a really expensive place to be with no source of funding. So we try to give scholarships to kids who financially would be unable to participate in these kinds of things otherwise. Because what often happens is, you know, the kids who come from families with a lot of resources, who can afford to ship their kid off for a semester and, you know, pay for a $2,000 a month apartment, are the ones that are able to take advantage of those internships and, you know, have an advantage that other kids don't. So we raise money for that. And I would say that in my mind, one of the most important parts of fundraising is to really connect the personal stories to the, you know, the funders that you're trying to attract, so that they really understand the individuals and the real impact. And not let the idea of where the money is going remain in a kind of abstract idea. And I will say, I also see the other side of this, since I work for Metro government, and we hear from a lot of different organizations that are looking for funding. I think that the ones that tend to do the best in terms of getting support from the council people are the ones that can tell a personal story that people are able to connect to. So I think it's really all about the storytelling, and I think that I would be really good in helping with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I don't know if I necessarily per se have experience with fundraising, but I have been known to, like, if a nonprofit that I know of is having an event and they need volunteers, I'm the first to go in, you know, like, so I like helping out with that. I like, you know, so as far as the organizing of the networking of getting the fundraising done, I don't have too much experience in, but the day of operation and, you know, like the setup of the actual stuff, I've helped with, and I did some fundraising, phone fundraising for the Actors Theater of Louisville for about 2 years when I was younger. So that's my experience with that.
All right. Donald Thomas?
Well, I've got several years of experience with fundraising. I've done several fundraisings, starting with my daughter and granddaughter's cheerleading, you know, volunteering there, helping them out. up to the real estate agency I work for. I did a lot of fundraising with them too. So I guess it's fair to say I've done a lot of fundraising, and I feel very comfortable doing it. And I can talk to people and get the word out, and make sure we get the job done.
All right. Sarah.
I think we're all cutting ourselves a little short. I think we've all sold a box of chocolates in our elementary school or middle school at one point or another. I've had some experience with fundraising in college. I attended the University of Kentucky, and landscape architecture programs all across North America have a student like a conference, and UK won to host one year, and so we had to call and solicit sponsors for that, as well as tours, getting different things donated for us. And then I also served as secretary for the Kentucky chapter of American Society of Landscape Architecture, and we have solicited sponsorship through that. That's all that I have.
Okay. John Hodgson.
Yes, I've got a little bit of experience in political and nonprofit fundraising, running events, but I would gladly vote for those of you that have more demonstrated experience to do that.
Latoya.
Being the teacher, the pizza party does not get paid for unless you have that t-shirt sale. So yes, fundraising I've fundraised since I was a little kid all the way up to currently. I've served in various capacities with fundraising. I've been a guest speaker for the Gildas Club, and they were being honored to receive some funds as far as other social organizations and helping open up some charter schools down in Nashville. I was able to sit on the fundraising committee to plan, a big gala in order to bring in money to the school, or, just as simple as, like I said, doing a classroom fundraiser or selling, candy, or hosting, a school-wide dance so the kids can have a 5th grade graduation, So I am very experienced with fundraising.
All right. Eli?
I've spent most of my professional career in nonprofit organizations, so I understand the importance of fundraising. If it was a rainy day and we couldn't be out in the field, we were in the office stuffing envelopes. I've spent a lot of time outside of work, again, with nonprofit organizations, everything from grilling hot dogs for a neighborhood festival, helping with chili suppers, hawking raffle tickets. I did spend a year with the Cabbage Patch Settlement House as a clerical support for our development program. I got to work closely with our special events crew. I've gotten pretty darn good at making mail merges, working with mailing lists, and processing donations as they arrive. I'm also a member of the Downtown Louisville Optimist Club, so I've gotten to see a lot of different presentations as people ask for donations, and gotten to really appreciate different strategies and tactics in making those presentations.
And Jen?
Sure. In 2014, I started a nonprofit, and that nonprofit called 3 Points is to bring beautification and streetscape improvements into communities, specifically Snitzelburg, Shelby Park, and German Paristown. To date, I've raised over $50,000 for that, and I've also, as an active member with the Center for Neighborhoods and the Snitzelburg Area Community Council, I've done a lot of fundraising with those organizations. Having said that, I have not brought a lot of that to the board, and this is actually an area that we have all kind of struggled in trying to identify grant opportunities, being able to follow through with the workload that grant reporting entails, and then also finding additional revenue streams that's going to help us diversify our bank account. So we don't have to rely just on Metro Council in order to get our funds. We need to be able to say, well, if Metro Council decreases our fundage, that's okay because we can rely on this. And so when I was talking to Lilius earlier, I said, wouldn't it be great if we had a CPA or a grant writer, an accountant, some numbers nerd that could really help out the rest of us people that just want to play in the dirt. One day maybe that person will join the board, but I think that as a group that will really be able to hopefully, like I said, identify and diversify our funding for the board.
If you are a numbers nerd out there in the internet world listening right now and you want to come help us, more than welcome to do that. I think that's everyone for that question. Lilius, did we have anybody in the chat with any questions?
We haven't had any that are specific for the candidates, but if you would like, we can start soliciting questions for folks.
Sure.
To share.
While we're doing that, do any of the, Lilius and I both work for the Conservation District. Do you guys have any questions for us while we're waiting for some questions to come in?
I would be curious what your favorite projects to work on are.
So it's hard for me to answer that because basically I got hired and I got to go into a school one time and then the pandemic hit and I had to like rethink my entire job description. Right now it's the podcast because I get to, number one, I get to talk to Kurt a lot, and like any Friday morning you can start just talking to Kurt Mason for an hour. You should take advantage of that. But I'm really learning a lot more in depth about our infrastructure and how the different parts of our natural resource management are really connected on a level all the way from how it's happening in our own backyards all the way up to, you know, how MSD is working and how the streams are all connected. So right now that's my favorite because I also feel like it is, with the uncertainty of the pandemic, the one thing that we can sort of keep pushing forward regardless of whether or not we're able to meet in person, because I can do all of that work digitally, but still give people tools and knowledge they need to go out into their own backyards and have an impact in a safe way. Liz, what about you?
I've got two favorite programs that I work on. The first is our Urban High Tunnel Initiative, which we launched back in the fall of 2016. And that work enables me to connect to a lot of home growers and urban farmers and introduce them to conservation practices that they might not be aware of by kind of through the lens of getting access to a high tunnel, which allows them to extend their season of growing. And it's also given me the chance to explore and educate about rainwater catchment and irrigation systems and things like that, which were things that I don't think folks knew they were even going to need to know about when they got a high tunnel. So that's been, and I've also just really, I've met so many great people in Jefferson County. I've gotten to form relationships with them and helped them connect to each other. So that's one of my favorite programs. And the other is the Urban Agriculture Coalition, which we started also about 3.5 years ago. And it was an awesome effort by a lot of different organizations to come together in Louisville and start to communicate with each other and work towards the common goal of increasing the access to healthy food in our community and equitable and just food practices. And it's been a really amazing journey to work with and meet and organize with different organizations, urban farmers, community members through the coalition. So I would say those are my two favorite programs that I work with. And I'm our urban agriculture specialist, just for all your information.
Thank you both.
Thanks.
Yeah, we did have a question, a couple questions that are coming in now through Facebook. The first one is specifically about our budget. And I can, so the question is, what is the Soil and Water District's major source of revenue? Yearly, quarterly allocation from City of Louisville or Jefferson County? I can answer this if Jen or Erin don't want to or don't feel like it. I'm pretty close to this budget many days. I'm on our budget committee. So we receive, our budget is around $180,000, give or take. And about 113 of that comes, 113,000 come from Metro Louisville. About 10 to 12,000 comes from the State Division of Conservation. And then we have some grants that we receive from the Division of Conservation for our soil voucher program and our urban high tunnel program, and some other smaller grants. So the majority of it comes from Metro Louisville. Another question from Becca Truman, who's also a supervisor with the Conservation District. What time commitments, and this is for you all, for the candidates, what time commitments can you all reasonably and realistically provide if elected? She says, thanks for being here. This is very inspiring.
I think that, oh, sorry.
You can go ahead.
Well, John, you can go on. I wasn't necessarily going to answer the question, but I did want to kind of provide to everyone that the Conservation District Board meets once a month. Since COVID hit, we've been doing it virtually, but that is a commitment that we expect all supervisors to have. And then beyond that, there's different committees and different ways that they can get involved. So I just kind of wanted to let the public know what exactly is expected, because a lot of times people might think that this is a full-time position and you're in an office for 8 hours a day. So I just kind of want to make that clear that this is almost in an essence a volunteer position. So the question would be, how much of yourself are you willing to give?
Okay. Well, like I've worked, I'd be able to give quite a bit of time. Like, I don't really have, gardening is kind of my big hobby. So if I can just transfer less time in my yard and more time into like helping other people do that, like I'm probably about 15, 20 hours a week out in my yard. So if I can just help more people do that, and just, if I can't have as cool of a garden next year, then or next 4 years, then that's going to be the price I have to pay, I guess.
Jennifer, I'm glad you cleared that up, because when I shared the news with my coworkers, my boss sent me crying emojis saying, no, don't quit. And I was like, sorry. So once a month commitment, you're okay. So after work, yes, I have the time to volunteer. And also, you know, I believe in giving back as a part of not only your time, but also your talents. And so with me being an avid gardener, you know, definitely being able to help out and share my talents and passions with everyone else.
All right, anyone else?
My schedule's pretty fluid and open, so I'm available a lot. Like I said, I'm a real estate agent, so I just go by appointments only. So, you know, whenever I'm needed, I can pretty much do it.
All right, Jasmine?
I was going to say that given that this is something that I'm really passionate about, I, you know, definitely want to be there helping out, doing some kind of work with you all way more than just that one meeting a month. Obviously, the thing that kind of remains to be seen for me is I don't actually know what I'm doing with my life after the end of December. So, you know, if I'm unemployed for a while, I'm all yours. But you know, I'm somebody that has a lot of energy. I don't really do well with downtime. I'm very happy working, you know, from the first thing in the morning until I go to bed without really sitting around on my butt. So I'm happy to help out a lot. I wish I could give a more exact hour, but it's hard to do
That's
that.
okay.
Not knowing exactly what the needs are,
Mm-hmm.
or where I will be plugged in. So
Sure. Anyone else? We have about 20 minutes left, and we actually are getting some questions coming in. So if you have an answer, we'll take it. Otherwise, we'll move on to some of these questions. Okay. One of these questions actually looks like it is from me and Lilius, which is a little bit interesting. It says, during times of NTI, which is non-traditional instruction, which is what the Jefferson County schools are doing, and we learned today we'll continue to do past the end of October, which was the plan. Do you have any plans for virtual content or outreach? So yes, we are going to be restarting our book club. Probably not until after Christmas, because things will still be busy. We have the environmental educators in Jefferson County have submitted a plan to JCPS, but whoever asked this question, if you want to email me, we can talk more in depth about it. The podcast, again, is always available. And I take questions and recommendations for topics to discuss on the podcast, so don't be afraid to reach out. Does anyone have a plan when it comes to implementing gardens that houseless folks will have access to at any time? Jasmine.
I'm gonna hop in here, and it's not a fully formed plan, but this is something that I'm sort of doing, not entirely, but sort of doing on my own property currently, which is that I have my garden for myself, which is inside the fence of my yard. And then I've also planted a lot of stuff in the verge. I have something that I call Squash Hill. And it's all out on the street where anybody walking by can just pick stuff. And I don't know that there's a lot of people that do that, but there are a few people that I know come by and grab stuff, and they're folks that I suspect to be unhoused. I don't really know. We haven't had that conversation, but I would love to see that scaled so that more property owners are planting gardens that are accessible to, especially people that live on busier thoroughfares. My property is at the corner of, it's on Shelby Street. And so there's a lot of foot traffic. And I think that if you could find a way to reach out to property owners who are on busy thoroughfares that have some green space that they aren't using. A lot of my Squash Hill was previously grass, and how my idea for that came along is I just didn't want to mow it anymore. And so I think if we could find a way for more people to do that, to have more gardens in vacant properties, but something that would be similar to a little library, where you walk by and you take a book, like make signs that say, take a tomato, take an apple, take a, what have you, in places where there's a lot of foot traffic.
Adding seed packet library to the list of things we need to do. Who else would like to go? Again, the question is, does anyone have a plan when it comes to implementing gardens that houseless folks who will have access to at any time?
I don't necessarily have a specific plan yet. I don't know if that was expected of candidates to run for this position, but that does give me the idea of also connecting to the groups that do serve the homeless community. I think we, as a city, will have a growing need for projects like that. I see more and more homeless people on the streets every morning as I drive through downtown Louisville, and it scares me to think they don't have enough to eat. So I would say a plan would have to be developed, and reaching out to other groups that serve the homeless community by foot. I've known or been involved with a couple of groups. That would probably be one of the first steps I would take, and seeing what the need is and where locations are that need to be served with growing gardens. I think that's an excellent project, though.
Okay, this is a good question. I'm excited that someone's asking this.
I think, can I say something?
For sure.
Okay. I think, too, it was a really fantastic question. I saw it on Facebook and I went, oh, great. I think that there's three ways, and this isn't fully encompassing everyone, but I think that there's three ways that we are doing this and could do better. And that is working with school children who might not have access to green space and making that accessible to them. I think also building up our community gardens, extending those plots, using vacant land in order to establish community gardens. I think that that's really important. There's some places in Louisville where a community garden, you have to be on a waiting list to get in it. Other areas, you know, you don't even want to go into the community garden because it's so overgrown with weeds. So we need to kind of find that equilibrium there. And then another way that we can, that we're actively doing this in some way, I think, Lilius might want to correct me, but I think that our Hoop House initiative, our high tunnels, have been really impacting communities because we hold the people who get those high tunnels accountable for producing food that goes back into the community. So even though it's not the community members themselves growing it, they're still getting that accessibility to fresh produce. And so I think that that's really important if you aren't able to have a green space, being able to reap the benefits of someone else's labor is pretty nice as well.
I think it would be interesting to develop a planting plan of different crops that would span the length of the growing season, and make that available to landowners, to people with an area of verge that they want to convert, and have that material ready for them, and maybe eventually, you know, packets of seeds to encourage it as well. But do some of the planning for them, so as people want to experiment with it, they've got a starting place.
And for me, I think that it's also leveraging that communication piece again, because as I think about areas that are in food deserts, I personally have volunteered in Newburgh and down in, you know, like the Russell neighborhood, where there are people that don't necessarily have a community garden where you can, you know, purchase a plot of land, but these are actually people volunteering and have free food for the community. But again, nobody knows. So it's out there, people that need free food and need available access to it. If you go right behind the Newburgh Library and Community Center, there's a plot of land right there that people are working, that there's available food, but the communication just isn't there. So, you know, there's plans out there. Again, we just need to beef up that communication for everybody that needs that access to be able to have it.
I'm also a member of the
Sarah,
Jefferson.
yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm also
No, go
a member
ahead.
of the Jefferson County Master Gardeners, and they also have programs with a lot of the community gardens. And maybe there's a partnership possible between the Master Gardeners and the community gardens and soil and water conservation districts to kind of beef up those, and also have maybe like specified plots for free food instead of, you know, I guess the whole thing being residents. Maybe they can all have like a shift or something where they can do different volunteer to work on those free plots for homeless or whoever wants it. And I really love Eli's suggestion about the planting plan for the verge. I mean, I've got a verge. I hate it. And I hate mowing it. I'm getting rid of all my grass, trying to get rid of the mower. And I'm thinking, like, what can I do in the verge? And that's such a great idea, just to put something out there for the community to walk by. And Jasmine's idea about a sign saying, you know, take what you want, take what you need. I love that. So a lot of good ideas here tonight.
There really are. I'm kind of loving this. Anyone else on that question before we move to a different one?
Well, like I was mentioning earlier, the U of L Garden Commons, I don't know quite how open it is to everybody, but I've talked to the people who run it, and I don't go to U of L. I'm not a part of their organization, but they've told me, like, hey, yeah, come up and get it. And every time I've gone by there, there's always been food. Like, you know, maybe, you know, one day I picked some basil and some zucchini and then a couple other things and just made dinner just from what they had there. I don't know if there's like a way that maybe you could talk to them and say, like, hey, this is working with you guys. What worked, what didn't work? I don't know.
All right. Is that everyone that cares to go for this question? All right. We have one more question, and it sounds similar to one that we may have answered at the top, but I'm going to make you answer very specifically. We know that all the resources are connected. That's kind of the idea here, is why we want to conserve them all. But of wildlife, water, soil, forested area or trees, and air, which resource do you find yourself the most passionate about and the most ready to address? Of course, we're all thinking, learning human beings who can adapt and grow, but which of these resources do you feel the most connected with and ready, if you were elected, to just step right in and take off? Jasmine.
Go ahead.
For me, it's soil. It's
All right.
the one, as a gardener, I spend the most time thinking about and reading about and trying to improve on my own property. So that's soil for me.
Sure. John Demery, was that you that were going to answer, or was it John Hodgson? Because you're
it
right
was-
next to each other now, and I don't know.
It was me.
Sure.
I would say water by far is probably the one that I'm most passionate about. Just like it comes down, and if you don't store it, then when you need it, then you can't use it. And then especially for like gardening and stuff, using tap water has the chemicals in it and all that stuff. And if you just use rainwater to do it, it's a lot better for the plants. So just water in general to me is that's my jam or my thing.
For sure. John Hodgson, did you have
Yes.
an answer to that?
I would say for me, it's water also. My backyard is actually water. I've got where some people would have grass. I've got a large pond with tilapia in it. And my interest, particularly out in this part of town, is, as I've mentioned, protecting the Floyd's Fork watershed so that so Jefferson County will still have one living creek, and it's a massive creek, runs for 20-something miles. And preserving the quality of that watershed by way of protecting, riparian buffers and protecting from excessive development is very critical for the whole county.
Sure.
I would say soil for me, because from where I live at, downtown the West End, there's no soil around here for kids or us to grow anything on. So that's number one in my book.
Yeah, I'm going to switch back to water. I think water being the essence of life, without water we can't really survive. And I think in the years and probably decades to follow, we here and around the state and probably around the country will have more and more problems with water and water being available to all of our citizens. And I think thinking strategically how we can provide access to healthy drinking water and water to grow plants outside in your backyard or in a community garden is going to be crucial to sustaining this city and its people.
I would say trees, mainly because of my background and because of my involvement on the Metro Tree Board, but also because trees have a role in preserving water, the soil, the air. I mean, the trees are kind of the key, and we're definitely in a deficit, and we're definitely losing more trees than we're replacing.
I agree with the tree. Also looking at the statistical data in Louisville and how our tree canopy is dying at an alarming rate, and we are not replenishing it quick enough in order for it to balance back out. So definitely preserving the tree canopy is where I'm ready to hit the ground rolling, because I even think about, we always hear people say, oh, when a tree dies, replant another tree. And people are like, no, I hated that tree, and they won't replant another one. But I'm like, you can't do that. Plant more trees. So yes, saving the tree canopy is definitely what I'm ready to hit the ground running doing.
I will second and third Sarah and LaToya. In addition to the ecosystem services that they provide, they also make the area more beautiful. Neighborhoods are considered more livable, and forests are wonderful places to go out and hike in and just relax in addition to everything already said about them.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
I'll echo the tree sentiment. I think that that's something that's very lacking. Even if you don't care about trees necessarily and what they provide to the environment, like Eli was saying, if you live on a tree-lined street, your property value goes up 10%. And, not only is it helping your property value, you're also breathing cleaner air. You're also having a house that's shaded in the heat of the summer, and then that's cooled or that's heated by the sun in the dead of the winter. So trees provide such a big benefit to us. And another thing, just going off of the water, even though it's not necessarily a living stream and we've quite engineered and butchered it, I would like to see the resurgence of Beargrass Creek and having that be something that's more accessible and recreational to people in Jefferson County. So those are a couple of items that are at the forefront of my mind.
All right, anyone else? Jefferson County, I hope you're seeing what I'm seeing, and I'm actually getting a little emotional, and I'm okay saying that on Facebook. I'm seeing all of these heads nodding and all of these people getting super worked up and passionate about this. I kind of just like all of you, just come join us. Even if you don't get elected, just come on, it'll be fun. So now you have the information you need on your candidates. Maybe you've never noticed this was a spot on your ballot before. I've had several people who only are voting this year because they're like, oh, don't you work there? Like, yeah, I do. Thank you all so much for coming and for being here. If anyone needs to reach out to us, our website is jeffcd.org. My email address is wildcommonwealth@outlook.com. We have a new episode of the podcast coming out tomorrow. It is on Spotify and Anchor and will be posted on our Facebook page, which is where you found this meeting. We're very, very happy that you all could join us, and I hope to talk to all of you soon. Thank you so much, candidates. I appreciate you.
Have a great night, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Stay healthy and go vote, please.
Yeah.
Good luck,
you.
everybody.
Yes, good luck.
Bye, you all.
Luck to all of us.